It's a new arc, so time for a new set of wants, because hey, my wants and needs outweigh everyone else's. Oh, who am I kidding? Of course they don't. Hey guys, MasakoX here. Another new arc and another set of wishes. However, this arc is unlike any other arc in Dragon Ball Super's history. You see, this arc has got a lot of weight on its shoulders. The first two arcs were straight up rehashes of the past two movies, Battle of Gods and Resurrection F, and they weren't particularly good rehashes either. Then we had the Universe 6 tournament arc, which was a very decent tournament. It introduced some new characters, it had some good action, the animation seemed to have stepped up quite a bit from the previous two arcs. There was a little bit of hope to be had here. It was a little on the short side though, but you know, hopes were high at the time. Also, it was great foreshadowing to the Universe Survival arc. But then we had the Goku Black Future Trunks arc, and that was, well, how should we say it? Divisive, to say the least. I personally found it a very interesting arc with some high points, some good to excellent animation, but then we had a really rushed ending which resulted in a very unsatisfying package. It's not going to age well, is it? The arc that we're just about to get stuck into has to maximize on everything that has come before it. If it doesn't, and we just get another mediocre arc, then the entire series' existence will be brought into question by even more people, probably the people right up at the top of Toei. Dragon Ball Super has been a very mixed bag of nuts for fans. There are some people that love it, there are some people that hate it. They clash with each other all the time. I have seen so many people on each side debating the quality of the series, whether it should exist, whether it's canon. It's almost as visceral as the whole GT debacle. Okay, maybe not that bad, but it could be one day. If this arc fails to generate more positive than negative comments and fails to excite people into getting motivated for Super again, then I really don't see much hope for the series. It could be tailed off towards a conclusion and end after about 100 episodes. It wouldn't be the end of Dragon Ball in terms of media. If the merch train keeps rolling along as it is, then we'll probably just go back to the old model of have a movie every 2 years. It worked for the two movies that we had, so just go back to that. The ratings for Super in Japan have been pretty solid. It's figured in the top 10 very frequently, and since the dub released in America on the Toonami block, it's actually figured towards 1 million or at least close to 1 million views, and that's on a Saturday night, late Saturday night. So it shows that Super definitely has some traction there, but it needs to capitalize on that to make it even more permanent. Especially after the tumultuous hype fest? What does this arc need to do to win the hearts of fans? What does it have to prove to the fandom at large that Super is legitimate and that it is a thing to be reckoned with? Well, instead of shrugging my shoulders and just being done with the matter, I thought I'd come up with a little list of things I think will make the Universe Survival arc very satisfying if they actually go through with this and don't fall on very easy plot devices. So I thought I'd throw it out to you for your consideration. So here are 5 things that I'd like to see in the Universe Survival arc that I think will give Dragon Ball Super a good shot in the arm. Number 1, a lasting consequence. What I mean by consequence is that something will happen that will change the series dynamic for the rest of its run. Super has been a show where there's been no real penalty handed down to the main cast of characters, with the exception of Trunks. Poor guy, he can't seem to get a break, can he? I would like to see Goku be held accountable for his insistence on a multiversal tournament. He needs to see all the damage he has done, potentially, to the universe. He is responsible for up to 92% of existence being wiped off the face of reality. People are going to die just to appease a couple of bratty kings. Well, Goku, really? I don't find mirth in people dying, but if people are going to die in this arc, I need there to be a sense of consequence, that the characters actually feel bad for their actions and they want to do something about it if they can. Whatever's done, it has to be done meaningfully. Either the universes are genuinely destroyed and there is no comeback from that, or one of the OMNI-KINGS is off in a power play, probably from the Grand Priest based on connotations from the opening and the early episodes. He could want to usurp the OMNI-KINGS out of retaliation for their foolish multiversal tournament and throwing existence into doubt. He could be done with it. But whatever happens, the drama and the outcome need to count for something, Super. Number 2. The two OMNI-KINGS conundrum. Speaking of the two OMNI-KINGs, how's that been working out for the universes? Not that well, I'd imagine. For billions of years, there's been only one guy at the top, and now there are two. Granted, it's still the same person, but now in stereo. And it is commonly said that one's worst enemy is oneself. I can imagine things being very chaotic, and at best, very, very boring. This plane of reality isn't supposed to have two OMNI-KINGS. Something has to be done to address this imbalance. Something. Perhaps, as I mentioned in the previous point, one of them dies somehow. Which one would it be though? Would it be the one that we already had in the present? Or would it be the future OMNI-KING that came from Trunks' timeline? We don't really know. How would you even be able to tell in some ways? But one thing's for sure though, if the end result is where nothing happens and everyone is all hunky-dory and the whole thing is laughed off as some jolly little jape that happened that one time, I am going to eat my shoes out of frustration. Number 3. Knowledge of pacing. I think most of my audience can attest that the Goku Black arc at points went by really fast. In fact, most of Super's arcs have been really fast paced. Much more than in the days of Dragon Ball Z. Yet despite the lower episode counts, there are times in the arcs where things go by really randomly. Sometimes it's ridiculously slow, and then bizarrely fast all of a sudden. Are we miles away from a conclusion, or are we just about to hit the end game? I can't really tell sometimes. Episodes 66 and 67 are prime examples of this in action. In 2 episodes we got 2 endings, 3 noteworthy battles, and 1 rather unsatisfying and confusing conclusion. The whole thing should have been extended by at least 1 episode, maybe 2, just to kind of give us some padding and prepare us for the ending. The ending is one of the most important parts of a story. If you mess that up, people don't like that. It's human nature to want a satisfying conclusion. Or better yet, have the events of episode 66 played out over 2 episodes and get rid of episode 67's content altogether. Then that would be much better if you just want to keep the same episode count. That would have been a much more satisfying ending. But I must admit that in today's modern markets, shorter arcs are much more in demand. So to appease that modern market, I feel that you need to actually get the pacing done right. So you need to have at least 25 episodes for this particular thing, especially if you've got a brand new opening for it. This is meant to be around for a while. Then you've got to throw in multiple subplots to help keep people satisfied. If you just have one story, it's just gonna drag and drag and drag. You need to have some little stories going on in the background. And I actually think that from the first 3 episodes of the Universe Survival Arc that we've seen up until this point, I actually feel really hopeful, because instead of going straight into the tournament, we're having a little exhibition match to give you an idea about what it's going to be like. Also, it has to have a conclusion that will appease as many people as possible. You can't satisfy every person out there, that's impossible. But if you can get more people on board, the better. Whatever happens, this arc needs to carry us through into late July, early August, so pretty much through most of the summer. Number 4. Characters that aren't Goku or Vegeta actually mattering. Super has nailed its flag to the wall by introducing 10 fighters from its main character roster into this upcoming arc. If a lot of them are underutilized, a lot of people are going to be annoyed. They need to count for something. They've been brought up to this arc stage and they need to perform. We know that Goku and Vegeta are going to be guaranteed good screen time, but for other characters, I'm not so sure. We must have moments that have varying degrees of intensity, drama, comedy, lightheartedness, as well as some things that make Dragon Ball Dragon Ball. And if you're going to do loads of comedy, we can't just overplay it all the time. We can't have many more of, oh, Majin Buu fell asleep, so therefore he can't fight, yuck, 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 yuck. Although having said that, the fight with Majin Buu and Basil in episode 79 was actually really good. We need more of that. Then we have the reintroduction of number 17. That is a statement from Toei that they wish to hear what the audience has to say. They've been longing for number 17 to come back in some shape or form, and now they're going to get it. Actually, with Toei, sometimes I'm not sure whether they're actually listening to the fans, or this is just a potential ploy for more merchandise. It could be both, but hey! He's back! At last, we're going to get to see more of the character that we've wanted to see, instead of that poor little rehash that we saw in that little mini arc in GT that we'd rather forget. Then we had Gohan and Krillin's respective resurgences in that little filler period between the Goku Black arc and the Universe Survival arc. Those 2-parters were great! They actually made Gohan and Krillin matter, and we need this arc to capitalize on that and further build on it. If we don't, then there's no payoff. There's nothing there, and it would be really unsatisfying. I know I'm using that word a lot, but it's crucial for this arc. Have some creative integrity for your characters, Toei, please. Then we have number 5. Keep things simple, but not simple. No timelines. No more, please. Please, please! Okay, that might be a little bit overbearing, but my point still stands. Toei doesn't have to burden us with overcomplicated plots that get completely tangled up and just leave it a complete mess for us all to see and laugh at. The timeline farce of the Goku Black arc is going to go down in anime history for being completely notorious and completely convoluted where it didn't have to be. It got so bad that Toei had to draw a diagram on its own website trying to explain the timeline. And if you actually have to explain what's going on in your series, much like a badly timed joke, you're doing something wrong there. So instead, try and keep the basic plot straightforward. There is a tournament that if you lose, your universe gets destroyed. Okay, sounds good. Simple start. If you want to throw in some interesting subplots here or there, then go for it. But just try and keep them relatively simple, not too complex. Dragon Ball isn't the place to do that. We've got other shows and mediums that can do that much better and much more sophisticated. Zamasu's existential crisis is probably the deepest that we're going to get in this series. And I do give the show brownie points for trying, but it didn't really work out as much as we'd like. He just came across as arrogant and brattish, and it just annoyed people rather than made people think. So the moral of this story is to keep the basic story simple but compelling with some interesting characters and side stories. Don't get things overcomplicated and think that if you just have to throw in a big thing like time travel, that will get interest, then it doesn't always work. The comedy and drama needs to be something relatable, something that we can get behind, something that we can cheer on our characters for, instead of trying to scratch our heads and figuring out what the hell's going on. It's important that the narrative structure doesn't frustrate the audience. So there are just 5 thoughts that I have concerning the Universe Survival arc. It has the potential to be a good arc, but then again, it has the potential to be a mediocre or a bad arc. There are so many variables here. Toei has to get this right. It needs to impress, or else I don't know how I'm going to be able to keep cheering Super on the way I am. But from the first 3 episodes that I've seen, the buzz has been genuinely positive. It's actually really hopeful to see. So what do you guys think? What would you like to see in this upcoming arc? Leave a comment below and let's get this discussion going. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Until the next one, be sure to like and subscribe. Catch you later.